Good morning, good morning, good morning, and thank you for coming back in with us. This is part 2 of Daring Dialogues. I'm your host, Shantae Charles, and if you are tuning in for the first time, I invite you to go back and watch the replay of part 1 once you're done with part 2. Today we are in our Teachable Tuesday, and we are studying from the book Watch Your Mouth by Pastor Tony Evans. It is understanding the power of the tongue, and we are now starting chapter 2, which is Lord of Your Lips. We're just going to go through the introduction today, and then we're going to continue next Tuesday with the sections Get Behind Me, If the Lord Wills, and Making It Public. All right, so here we go. And I'll give just a minute for those who need to come back in from part 1. As we said at the top of broadcast part 1, our hearts do go out to the families of those who were affected by the bombing at the Manchester Arena in the UK. We will continue to lift up those families in prayer, those who have lost loved ones, as well as those who have been injured and are now in the process of recovery. So we're jumping back into our lesson today, Lord of Your Lips. And let's take a look at what Pastor Tony Evans has to share with us at this time. A ship was sailing at night when it received a radio message. The message was simple yet clear. Turn south immediately. I am directly in front of you. The captain of the ship did not want to turn south in the middle of the night or make any other change to his ship's course. So he replied, I am a Navy captain. You turn north. The captain waited briefly and then received another message. You are headed straight toward me. Turn south now. I will not turn north. The captain was irritated because this conversation was going on so long, and also because the other person was not respecting his authority. So he replied, This is my final statement. I am a Navy captain. I will not turn south. You will turn north. He barely had time to send his message before he received an adamant reply. You will turn south. I am a lighthouse. Friend, regardless of who you are or what ship you are steering, the lighthouse will never adjust to you. It doesn't matter how powerful you are, how much education you have, or what successes you have had. If you are a ship in conflict with a lighthouse, the lighthouse is going to win every single time. Unfortunately, many of us do not understand that. We believe that we are setting our own courses and making our own decisions, and we expect everything else to adjust to us, including God. Have you ever met someone that always expects everyone else to adjust to them or adjust to their schedule, including God? Selah. But if you and God are not seeing things the same way, you must adjust to God. God will never adjust to you. If you want to call your own shots, then go make your own world. This is God's world, and what He says goes. Many of us like to dictate to God where we want Him to go and what we want Him to do, forgetting that He is the lighthouse and we are not. He directs the path and not us. He guides our way, not us. And He is Lord of our lips, not us. Chaos ensues when we set ourselves up to be the ones who determine what we should say and when. So remember, in part 1, I talked about the fact that I had to ask God, I had to be yielded to God to get to the place where I was now using my tongue in order to bless people as opposed to curse them. But little did I know that not even a year or so later, God would call me to the responsibility of the prophetic office. Not the gift, the office. Might I give you this supposition? Might the ones who have the prophetic gift not yet be called to the office because God is not yet Lord of your lips? So, not only did I have to get myself in a position to begin to bless people, but then when it came to the appointment from God for the office of a prophet, I now had to receive the fact that my lips are no longer mine. And this is why I can tell that some people either are not prophets, they have a gift, but they're not prophets, or they are immature in their prophetic office. Because when God calls you to the office of a prophet, your lips don't belong to you anymore. They don't. Your lips don't belong to you anymore. Your ears don't belong to you anymore. Your hands don't belong to you anymore. Your feet and where you travel and where you go don't belong to you anymore. You are now, as Paul calls it, a bond servant to the will and the voice of God. So you can't tell me that you're a prophet, but yet your entire life is not submitted to God. You walking around doing what you want to do, going where you want to go, saying what you want to say, hearing and then speaking out of your mouth all kinds of stuff. And you actually want me to be convinced that you are called to the office of a prophet. I beg to differ. I'm just being honest. I beg to differ. This is why I don't acknowledge everybody as a prophet, even if you call yourself one. Where is the fruit of your submission? Where is the fruit of your obedience? Where is the fruit that God is leading you in what you say? Okay, I'm moving on. When we do not surrender our thoughts and our words to God, we can expect negative outcomes as a result. Period. Words matter. What you say is no small thing. As we've seen already, life and death are in the power of the tongue. That is, with the tongue you can bless or curse because your speech has spiritual repercussions. This is why, regardless of how someone has treated me in the past, I don't go around using my words to curse them. Because I know, as a prophet of God, if I curse them, it's going to have some serious repercussions. And in my life, there has rarely been a time where God commands me to curse something. But when he does, I see the results of it being cursed. And so if you are a prophet of God, it's a very dangerous thing to be releasing curses upon people, especially when God has not told you to do so. I can probably name you maybe 3 times where God literally told me, I am tired of what this person is doing. I'm tired of what they are doing, not only to you, but I'm tired of the damage they're doing in the Christian community. Go ahead and curse that thing. You should be terrified if God commands you to curse something. You should not be walking around throwing Mardi Gras parties because God told you to curse something. So let's settle that right now. If you understand the power of cursing something so that it never returns, you should not be excited about that. You should actually be kind of terrified, especially as a prophet of the Lord, that God gives you that authority to curse something. That's not a kind of authority that you want to just be willy-nilly with. And it's also, again, that's why I said I can tell when you have prophets who are immature, because they're going around and cursing everything. They're cursing cities. They're cursing bananas. They're cursing toilet paper. Like, really? Clearly you don't understand the power of cursing something. And then I want to say, who is the person who released you into the world to do that? Whole other scope. Whole other scope. He says here, as I began to compile my notes to teach and write on this topic of our words, I was interested to see how very little had been previously taught or written on the subject. That amazed me because there is precious little in our lives that carry such an enormous impact on our lives. Just as physical life and death are contained in the power of the heart, life and death, whether emotional, relational, spiritual, or even physical, are contained in the power of the tongue. We certainly would never downplay the role our heart has in our lives, and yet this subject of speech doesn't seem to get the airtime it deserves in the Christian realm. Clearly, it's not getting the airtime it deserves. Because I can tell you right now, look at our current spiritual climate. Look at what words have done to the integrity of the Christian faith in 2017. Look at what loose lips in the prophetic have done to the character and integrity of the Christian church in 2017. How many people have left the faith because of false words being released about our current leader? So you can't tell me words don't matter. How many people have looked at the words that well-known prominent Christian figures have said, and then they've looked at the actions of the person that they're speaking about, and now it has created chaos, it has created destruction, it has created confusion, it has released Christian murderers, people who are going around and harming people in the name of Jesus and in the name of God in America. In my region, just this past week, a gentleman who was an ROTC gentleman, he had just been given a new command, getting ready to graduate college, and an alt-right person comes up to him and stabs him in the chest. And America is trying to figure out if this is a hate crime. And if you know anything about the alt-right, those groups of people, they believe that they are doing stuff in the name of God. So it's creating confusion, it's creating chaos, it's creating destruction, and it's emboldening people to commit crimes against humanity because of the speech that's been released into the earth, because of the rhetoric that's being released into the earth, because of the climate that has now been set, that it is okay to release hatred and vitriol into the earth in a bolder way. We are now living with the fruit of people's words at the highest office in the world. So why we don't understand that words matter, we're getting a taste of it in real time that your words matter. And as a person who is in the highest office in the land, his words are setting the tone for chaos, hatred, destruction to be made manifest. And people are paying with their lives. Words can make a crucial contribution to our success or failure individually and collectively. This is our last, I believe, our last segment here. Let's look at Matthew 16:21 through 23 to see how difficult it can be to make our tongues work right. From then on, Mark 16:21 through 23. From then on, Jesus began to point out to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders, chief priests, and scribes, to be killed and be raised on the third day. Then Peter took Jesus aside and began to rebuke him. Yes, this is the same Peter that walked on water is now rebuking God. The same Peter that walked on water is now rebuking the God of the universe. Oh no, Lord, this will never happen to you. But he turned and told Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me because you're not thinking about God's concerns but man's." You can use the word Lord and yet be talking straight from the devil. Just say law on that. You can be using the word Lord. You can be talking to the Lord and be motivated with a devilish thought and intent that you're speaking out your mouth. I'll say it again. He turned and told Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me because you're not thinking about God's concerns but man's." Peter was using the word Lord, talking to the Lord, but he was talking straight from the devil. How do we know he was talking from the devil? Because he told he told Jesus, that what Jesus had actually come to the earth to do, to give his life as a ransom for many, would never happen. You've got to recognize when people are speaking in direct contrast and conflict with exactly what God told you to do in the earth. And you've got to be able to turn around and say, "Get thee behind me, Satan." I don't care if it's mama, daddy, brother, cousin, unc, grandma, toot. You have to recognize when it is the voice of the enemy speaking through a vessel. And in this case, listen, it wasn't that Peter was demonic. It was that Peter was driven by his own soulish thought realm, his own soulish compassion for Jesus. And because Peter did not want to see that happen to Christ, he now becomes a vehicle by which an unchecked word can speak through. I'm going to say that again. Peter's soulish realm, his desire to not see Jesus be crucified, opened him up to speak a word that came directly from the enemy. Sometimes people's compassion for you, sometimes their well-wishing for you can have them to begin to speak out of their soulish realm something that goes contrary to the vision, the purpose of God for your life. And you have to be discerning enough to know whether or not this person is speaking the word of the Lord or if they're speaking out of their well wishes for you. And sometimes their well wishes for you is actually against the very purpose for which you came. And you've got to be discerning enough to recognize the difference. All right? Peter began using what we call Christianese. He's using language that is familiar in Christian circles. He calls Christ Lord, indicating he is trying to think biblically, spiritually, and theologically. And yet, despite his best attempts in seeking to shield and protect Jesus, when he finishes talking, Jesus refers to him as the devil. What makes this very interesting is that a few verses earlier, Peter was on it, right? He was on it spiritually. He was hitting the bullseye. In verses 15 through 16 in Matthew 16, we find this conversation between Peter and Jesus. Jesus asks him, "Who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answers, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." So Peter gets a revelation of who Christ is. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. So that should connect. That should connect with prophecy in Peter's mind that if he is the Messiah, then the Messiah came to save the world. All right? So Peter was on it. After that brief interchange, Jesus blessed Peter and called him a stone, establishing him as the leader for the birth of the church. But a couple verses later, that same leader who is going to birth the ecclesia, Jesus has to rebuke him for speaking on behalf of Satan himself. And that is how quickly our tongue can turn. Unless our hearts, mind, and thoughts are aligned under God, there is no telling what will come out of our mouth. Only when Jesus is Lord of our life will he also be Lord of our lips. My time is up. I'm going to stop there for today. Next week, we'll come back and we'll continue this discussion of Jesus being Lord of our lips. I hope that you got something out of our talk and study for today in Watch Your Mouth by Tony Evans. I highly recommend that you get the book so that you can read along, highlight, make your own notes. And we're going to continue to talk about the tongue because it is important. We'll probably be back in that book again on this Friday. Tomorrow, ladies, if you're a lady, especially, we are also inviting the men who love us. But if you're a lady, we are in the book Mean Girls All Grown Up on Wednesdays. We're going to be talking again about the mean girl. And tomorrow we're going to talk about mean girl targets, 4 personalities that mean girls are drawn to. And you might have to ask yourself, am I one of these personalities? And if we have time, we'll begin talking about mean girls and your man. Lord have mercy. What do you do when the mean girl wants your man and she's making your life difficult? All right. So that's what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. So if you are a woman, you want to be in the room at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to go all in. All right. So I hope that you have enjoyed our Daring Dialogue for today. Make sure you catch our replays. All of them are archived here. And I hope to see you back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember to share this broadcast if you care, share if you care, and bring a friend tomorrow morning. Take care and God bless.